Jai Gurudev. Bela, please unmute yourself.
Jai Gurudev. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
I am sharing. Yeah, but it is not opening. I have to, I think I have to stop and then again share.
I think, yeah, maybe so. Maybe it's your internet. Doesn't matter. If you have any trouble, I will do it. Not an issue.
Yeah, I try once again. Yeah.
Yeah. Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Jai Gurudev Brahmaraji. I think I'm not able to share the screen. I'm not able to.
Don't worry, I will share it. Don't worry.
I don't know what is the problem.
Yeah,
but I can see the. Once again, I try.
Just give me a minute. I will share this. I was opened in my mobile. I will just put it on my laptop.
It is opening only till 3rd chapter.
Don't worry.
Why is it? This is the first time. I mean, every time it is so easy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you should open it separately. Open the 6th chapter and then keep it open.
Yeah, but after third, what is the page number, Brahmaraji?
I think what we did is still.
Let me try. You continue. I will try to bring that page number on my screen. Through page number, if I can watch, I mean, I can find out.
Finished 20. Sukhamatyantikam is also done. We've done till here, this 332, I think. We can start from shloka number 21.
332.
No, actually, we did absolute sukha, that is yourself. Yeah, we've got to start from the difference between recognition and experience, but I think it's well worth to start from shloka 21. I can start in the meantime.
Yeah, please, Brahmaraji.
Hmm.
Just give me a minute. It is.
Yeah, no problem.
Are you okay to start, or I will
Yeah,
just.
no problem.
It is
No
still.
problem. No problem.
No, I can read, but are you comfortable to share the screen as well as?
Yeah, you can read if you want to read. But if you want to give it a try, it doesn't matter. I will read till then.
Okay, Brahmaraji. Please continue.
Sukhamastikam yattat buddhigrahyamatīndriyam veti yatra na chaivayam stitaschalati tatvatah. Yat tat, that which is, atyantikam, absolute, buddhigrahyam, recognized by the intellect, atindriyam, beyond sense perception, sukham, happiness, yatra, when, ayam veti, one recognizes, cha and, stitaha, being well rooted therein, tatvataha, from the truth of oneself, na eva chalati, now, one never moves away. And yat tat atyantikam buddhigrahyam atindriyam sukham yatra ayam veti cha stitaha tatvataha na eva chalati. And when one recognizes this absolute happiness, which is recognized by the intellect, which is beyond sense perception, and when, being rooted therein, one never moves away from the truth of oneself. The vritti, thought, by which one recognizes an object, and the object of the vritti are identical. That is, in order to recognize the object, the vritti must necessarily have the object in itself. If I have to recognize a pot, ghata, the vritti must assume the very form of the pot. Therefore, the vritti is called ghata vritti. By the ghata vritti alone, one recognizes the object ghata pot. For the recognition of Atma also, there must be a vritti. This vritti is created by the Shastra and it destroys self-ignorance. And this vritti is brought back by the contemplator in Nididhyasana. In the recognition of the Swarupa of the self, the vritti assumes the very Swarupa of Atma without objectifying it. This is not similar to knowing an object such as the pot. In the recognition of the Swarupa of the Atma, there is only one operation involved, whereas in the objectification of a pot, there are two operations. One operation is the vritti assuming the form of the pot, and the second operation is the recognition of that vritti, thereby recognizing the pot. One is the objectification of the object by the vritti, and the other is the recognition of the vritti. The objectifying vritti is recognized by another vritti, which is the drashta, the seer. I become the seer, the knower of the pot. Therefore, this I thought, the aham vritti, assuming the status of the knower, recognizes an object through a vritti, the ghata vritti, and says, this is a pot. I am ghataha. Any piece of knowledge where there is this peculiar connection, Atma Anatma Sambandha, between the self, the knower you, and the object that is objectified by that knower, takes place by these two operations. That is, the object is objectified by the vritti and you cognize the vritti. This is why you can say, this is a pot. But you cannot say, this is Atma. Who is there to say it? I am the one who has to say it. And if it were to be so, then the self, Atma, would become an object of the self who is objectifying it. Therefore, it would become Anatma, not Atma, just like any other object of your knowledge. Seeing Atma is different than seeing an object. Naturally, then, when Krishna said, seeing Atma in the last verse, some difference was definitely implied. The difference is that in the number of operations involved. Seeing Atma implies only one operation. There is no second operation at all, as there is when one sees an object. Only the first operation is there. The vritti that objectifies Atma, that assumes the very form of Atma. If I say Atma is pure consciousness, Kevala Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya, and the recognition of this fact takes place, that recognition implies that the vritti assumes the very form of consciousness and there is no other object involved. That particular form destroys the ignorance with reference to the Swarupa of the Atma and then disappears. That particular form destroys the ignorance with reference to the Swarupa of the Atma and then disappears. This then is the only operation that takes place, meaning that there is no second operation in the form of the recognition, this is Atma, as there is in the cognition of other objects. The one operation that does take place is only with reference to one's confusion about oneself, the self-ignorance that was there. That ignorance is destroyed by the vritti. This is what happens in self-knowledge, in knowing the self, more of which we shall see later. I think all this we did yesterday, no? If you want me to repeat anything, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll move forward.
Brahmaraji.
Yeah. Yes, Bella, I cannot hear you. You can maybe write it in the chat in case you're not audible here.
Oh, it means I have to exit and... Oh, please continue, Brahmaraji. I'll exit and join again.
Okay. What does a wise person have to rejoice over? Generally, a person rejoices only when he or she has something over which to rejoice, something other than knowing Atma. Some revealing situation is usually there for any rejoicing to take place. But what is there for the person being discussed in this verse? to rejoice over. It is a recognition of the absolute happiness that is one's own nature, a recognition by the intellect that is beyond sense perception. Sukham atyantikam yattat buddhigrahyam atindriyam. Atyantika sukha, Shankara explained in his commentary, is a sukha, a happiness which is absolute, a happiness that is the nature of oneself. Swarupa sukha. This means that it has nothing to do with the vritti in reality. It is a particular vritti, no doubt, but it is not born out of a particular condition external to oneself. The word Atmanam mentioned in the previous verse is converted here into Atyantika Sukha. Seeing the self is recognizing the self as Sukha Swarupa, one whose nature is absolute happiness, Atyantika Sukha. And this recognition takes place in the intellect, in the buddhi alone. At the same time, this Sukha is beyond sense perception, Atindriya. So the gist of the last few paragraphs is that there are two aspects to knowing an object. To recognizing an object, you require two operations. You require the vritti of the object, where your mind becomes that vritti, and then you should recognize the vritti. Like if someone points out to a pot and tells you this is a pot, so first that the sentence that the vritti of this is a pot, the pot vritti takes place in your mind, and then the drashta, the seer, recognizes this vritti as this is a pot. So there are those two operations required for anything which is anatma. Anything which is other than the atma, you require these two because there is an object and there is a drashta. Whereas when it comes to the atma, there is only one operation required, which is the vritti. Just the atma vritti is what is required. That is which the Shastra provides us. So when you sit in contemplation and your mind assumes the form of the vritti, there is no drashta separate from you. So you become that. And that is what is meant by saying that it requires only one operation. And normally, when anybody, a non-jnani, rejoices, he rejoices over something that is which is external to himself. When he attains something or he achieves something. Whereas for a jnani, he attains this absolute ananda, which is the Swarupa Ananda. When he becomes that Swarupa Atma, then that is what he experiences. Atyantikam Sukham. The difference between absolute Sukha and relative Sukha. We did this actually yesterday, but I will just repeat it once. This Atyantika Sukha or Atma Sukha is something quite different from the pleasure you pick up because of a sense object or a situation, Vishaya Sukha. Both Atma Sukha and Vishaya Sukha are recognized by the Buddhi. Bela, you can share. If you share, this will automatically go. You see if you are able to share.
Yeah, okay. I'll just try once again. Okay, Brahmaraj?
Just
give me. Yeah.
Both Atma Sukha and Vishaya Sukha are recognized by the Buddhi. There is no nasal Sukha or other Sukha that is not recognized. Yeah.
Is it coming?
Yeah. We are able to see the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
You can start from here, the difference between absolute sukha and relative sukha.
Astu, okay. The difference between absolute sukha and relative sukha. This Atyantika Sukha or Atma Sukha is something quite different from the pleasure you pick up because of a sense object or a situation. Vishaya Sukha. Both Atma Sukha and Vishaya Sukha are recognized by the Buddhi. There is no nasal Sukha or other Sukha that is not recognized by the Buddhi. A sukha born out of hearing something pleasant, for example, is always inside, not outside. There is also a sukha born of having solved a problem or a riddle for yourself, the kind of happiness that causes you to say, Eureka, born of some recognition or a piece of knowledge. This is called Vidya Sukha. There is a clarity there, which, to use the language of the Gita, increases your sattva disposition. This heightened sattva makes the mind more composed, gives rise to shant antah karana. Because knowledge and sattva go together, there is sukha. Thus, whenever you pick up a piece of knowledge, no matter how simple or complex, there is some sukha which we call Vidya Sukha. But the sukha that one picks up by a piece of knowledge is still a relative sukha because it is subject to change. A challenge is met successfully, sukha is discovered, and then it is gone. If the sukha was the result of having unraveled a few knots in a tangled ball of wool, you pick up the yarn again and begin unraveling some more to gain some more sukha. There is also Vishaya Sukha, a sukha born out of fulfilling a desire for a particular object and the experience thereof. An object of desire brings about sukha in different degrees. Just the sight of it brings about certain sukha, and owning it or experiencing it brings about some more sukha. Thus, there are levels or degrees of Vishaya Sukha. Everyone has this kind of sukha, even a cat or a dog, whereas Vidya Sukha is only for human beings. Vidya Sukha includes any accomplishment, and Vishaya Sukha implies a certain situational gain in terms of a desire fulfilled. So beautiful. It is like when you desire a gulab jamun, when you eat one, then you get a sukha, that is Vishaya Sukha. But Vidya Sukha is available only to human beings. Vishaya Sukha is available to animals as well. There is also the Sukha born of yoga. Yoga includes prayer and meditation, in which there is a certain Sukha. Pranayam, etc., can also bring about some Sukha. Thus, there are these three kinds of Sukha: Vishaya Sukha, Vidya Sukha, and Yoga Sukha. Vidya Sukha and Vishaya Sukha are experienced by everyone, whereas Yoga Sukha is experienced by a disciplined person, a karma yogi, a prayerful person, a devotee. Because of the person's maturity, a certain Sukha is there. In the seat of meditation, there is a Sukha. Discipline, health, and so on bring about a certain sukha, a satisfaction, all of which is implied by yoga sukha. Then there is the fourth sukha called Turiya Sukha, which does not depend on any gain, accomplishment, or anything. It is not born out of any particular piece of knowledge that you discover, nor any object that you gain. It is just the recognition of yourself alone, because of which there is a sukha. This sukha is the sukha mentioned by Krishna in this verse. Atyantika sukha, absolute sukha. This is also recognized by the intellect, buddhi grahya, and is beyond sense perception, atindriya. So there are different three kinds of main sukha: Vishaya sukha, Vidya sukha, and Yoga sukha. Vidya Sukha and Vishaya Sukha experienced by everyone, whereas Yoga Sukha can be experienced only by a Karma Yogi who is disciplined, who is prayerful, and who is mature. And the fourth type of Sukha is Turiya Sukha. Turiya Sukha, it does not depend on any gain or accomplishment, but it is born out of particular piece of knowledge that you discover. And when you discover that you are that, then that sukha is called Turiya Sukha. Kindly contribute if you wish to have. Brahmaraji, could you please just help to add some more explanation for Turiya Sukha?
I think that the Turiya Sukha is the absolute Sukha that you gain once you recognize the Atma. Everything else is like, including the Yoga Sukha. So we have four kinds of Sukhas: Vishaya Sukha, Vidya Sukha, Yoga Sukha, and
Turiya.
Turiya Sukha.
Atyantika Sukha.
Huh?
Atyantika Sukha.
Atyantika Sukha, that is the absolute Sukha.
That is same as Turiya?
Same as Turiya.
So that is the ultimate, it is not like anything to be accomplished. You are already that, and
yes,
you are
you only
that.
recognize that. Yeah. It is like it you is do the vritti, you take the vritti that the Shastra gives. That is Tattvamasi or Aham Brahmasmi. And then you contemplate on that. And when your antakarana is enough, it has become enough pure, this contemplation itself, it becomes, you recognize that you're nothing but the Swarupa Ananda. You recognize that you yourself are the Atma. And when that happens, that is when you get the Turiya Sukha.
Yeah. It is not born of anything. It is yourself.
Because in that previous paragraph, it was mentioned that vritti that the Shastra provides, it removes the self-ignorance about yourself and it disappears. So the vritti no longer remains. You are the Atman, that is it. The drashta, the seer, the object that is seen, or the vritti, and the whole process of seeing, they merge and they become one. So you merge in the Advaita. You are Advaita at that point. So there is no two there.
And you reveal.
So when there are no two, you don't require any other object to rejoice. Isn't it? Otherwise, for a person who still not recognized the Atma, he requires some external, either an object or
situation,
or a situation, or even yoga, for instance. practice of yoga also, he gets some sukha out of it, isn't it? Even a karma yogi has that little element of Dvaita still persisting in him, which is why he's a karma yogi. So either from Vishaya Sukha or from Vidya Sukha or Yoga Sukha, this person, all these are external to him. They're all anatma. Whereas the Turiya Sukha is the one that is Atyantika Sukha, which is absolute happiness, where you don't require any other apart from yourself. So it is only that the self-ignorance gets destroyed by that vritti that the Shastra provides, and then that is it. That is the absolute state. All enlightened masters are in that state constantly, 24/7. We probably get a little glimpse of that Turiya Sukha when we sit in meditation, and then maybe for a fraction of a second or so, we might kind of touch upon that bliss. The only
In Sudarshan Kriya also we do get that.
Right.
Touch.
Only thing is it's not sustained. Is there an echo? I can hear my own voice echoing.
No.
It's fine.
Your voice is very clear, not echoing.
And also deep sleep also, right?
Yeah, deep sleep is there, but that's still that ignorance is there in deep sleep. The difference between, I think, deep sleep and this Atyantika Sukha is that ignorance is still, there's this still covering of ignorance.
After getting up, area, that sukha, actually, not at the time of, sleep. Yeah. So this is.
It is still in that Karana Sharira, wherein it is still covered by that veil of ignorance. That is why, see, if we can be in that deep sleep, that state, even during our wakeful state, probably, I mean, that's what I think, maybe, if you can extend even during a wakeful state, that bliss, and that is born out of knowledge and not just that deep sleep. That is what is, I think, Turiya Sukha, which is absolute.
So for us, the karma yogis, this sukha, the turiya sukha is there, but it is experienced only for momentaries. I mean, during the moments when we are in the meditation or when we are in complete knowledge.
Complete knowledge.
That will be again Vidya Sukha only.
Vidya Sukha, right. As how Swamiji has explained, that is also Sukha, yes. But then it's a degree. Basically, all these four are degrees of Sukha. Whereas the one absolute Sukha, which is what we call moksha, we call Atma Jnana, all these different names and terms we use. The Parama Shanti.
It is mentioned in the shloka, about this Turiya word.
No. Okay. In the shloka, it is not. Shloka, it's only Atyantika Sukham. I think Swamiji in his explanation has explained this.
So it is beyond indriyas, it is beyond sense perception. It is buddhi grahya. These are the characteristics.
Yeah, it is in the buddhi only that this recognition takes place, but it is beyond the senses.
That's so beautiful. Okay. the sukha that is yourself. This is where people sometimes commit mistakes. Atindriya sukha means that the sukha is not due to sense perception. At the same time, every sukha is buddhi grahya, recognized by the intellect. Vishaya sukha, vidya sukha, and yoga sukha are also buddhi grahya, but not atindriya. Whereas this absolute sukha is buddhi grahya and also atindriya, meaning that it is not due to any external situation or internal condition. Yoga sukha also is not born of an external situation, but it is born of an internal situation, while Vishaya Sukha is born of external situations. But the Sukha that Krishna is talking about here is not born of anything. It is yourself. People naturally want to know what this Sukha is born of. How can it be brought into being? But this concept of Sukha being born is due to ignorance. It is a samsari's approach, an approach of the ignorant, the non-discriminating person. Therefore, we have to be very careful here. Absolute Sukha is buddhi grahya and at the same time atindriya, which means it has nothing to do with sense perception or anything. It is oneself. So beautiful. You are that. So this Turiya Sukha is also already there. You are that. The Sukha that is yourself. So beautiful. If you want me to read again, please tell me. When the person, the meditator, the seeker comes to recognize the Atma Swarupa, Yatra Veti, happens, he or she does not slip away from the truth of Atma as absolute happiness, Atyantikam Sukham, Tatvatah na chalati. Here, Tattva means the Swarupa, the essential nature of a thing, as expressed by the suffix ness. There is no appropriate word in English for Swarupa. Here, Tattva is the truth or Swarupa of the Atma, which is Atyantika Sukha Swarupa, which is free from any form of limitation, Purna Swarupa. From this, the person never moves away. Na eva chalati. So beautiful. I will just read the last paragraph up again. When the person, the meditator, the seeker comes to recognize the Atma Swarupa, Yatra Veti, what happens? He or she does not slip away from the truth of Atma as absolute happiness, Atyantikam Sukham, Tatvatah na chalati. Here, Tattva means the Swarupa, the essential nature of a thing, as expressed by the suffix ness. There is no appropriate word in English for Swarupa. Here, Tattva is the truth of or Swarupa of the Atma. Tattva is the truth or Swarupa of the Atma, which is Atyantika Sukha Swarupa, which is free from any form of limitation, Purna Swarupa. From this, the person never moves away. Na eva chalati. So Satchit Ananda Swarupa, once that is recognized and you are that, then that becomes a Atyantikam Sukham, absolute Sukha, an absolute happiness for the meditator. The difference between recognition and experience. This recognition marks the difference between ordinary yoga, meaning Ashtanga yoga, and what we are talking about here. You must know this well and not confuse this recognition with the samadhi of Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is a discipline which has its own place in preparing the mind for the knowledge to take place. For this reason, you should not think of it as useless or anything. Ashtanga Yoga is a great discipline, but if it is not understood as such, there can naturally be confusion between it and the knowledge of oneself, Atma Jnana, which is the ultimate and the freedom that everyone seeks. The samadhi that Ashtanga Yoga talks about is in terms of experience. In fact, if as a samsari you have to accomplish anything in this world, that is in the world of samsara, samadhi is the greatest accomplishment experientially. In this sense, Ashtanga Yoga has the last word in terms of nirvikalpa samadhi, a state of absorption wherein there is no second thing at all. The knower, known, and the instrument of knowledge, all three of them coalesce into one experience. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing wrong this word. Kindly correct me. Coalesce into one experience lasting for a length of time. Although it does not take away the samsara, it is definitely the last word in samsara. I will read this once again. There is a beautiful explanation for the samadhi that Ashtanga Yoga talks about. The samadhi that Ashtanga Yoga talks about is in terms of experience. In fact, if as a sansari, you have to accomplish anything in this world, that is in the world of samsara, samadhi is the greatest accomplishment experientially. In this sense, Ashtanga Yoga has the last word in terms of nirvikalpa samadhi, a state of absorption wherein there is no second thing at all. The knower, known, and the instrument of knowledge, all three of them coalesce into one experience lasting for a
you're
length of
doing it
time.
right, Bela. It's coalesce, which is right. Yeah.
Yeah, it means the
They all come together.
They all come together.
They all
merge.
merge. Yeah, they all merge.
Although it does not take away the samsara, it is definitely the last word in samsara. Nirvikalpa samadhi is the opposite of deep sleep. In deep sleep, there is nirvikalpa, all right, meaning that the knower, known, knowledge division is not there. But in the nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind is awake, unlike in deep sleep where the mind is sleeping. In both cases, there is agnana, the difference being that when the mind is asleep, there is no vritti, whereas in nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind is awake, meaning there is vritti. Therefore, the greatest thing you can have in life is nirvikalpa samadhi, which is why it is the greatest hooker also. It baits people because it is the last thing that you can think of accomplishing in samsara, in your life here in this world. So beautiful.
Can you read this one more time, Bela?
Yeah, sure.
This Nirvikalpa Samadhi thing? Yeah.
Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the opposite of deep sleep. In deep sleep, there is nirvikalpa, all right, meaning that the knower, known, knowledge division is not there. But in the nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind is awake, unlike in deep sleep, where the mind is sleeping. In both cases, there is agnana, the difference being that when the mind is asleep, there is no vritti, whereas in nirvikalpa samadhi, the mind is awake, meaning there is vritti. Therefore, the greatest thing you can have in life is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is why it is the greatest hooker also. It baits people because it is the last thing that you can think of accomplishing in samsara, in your life here in this world.
I did not understand. In both cases, there is ajnana. But in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it should not be there, no? That is confusing.
Can you read the previous para before this, Vela?
Yeah.
Yes. The samadhi that Ashtanga Yoga talks about is in terms of experience. In fact, if as a samsari, you have to accomplish anything in this world that is in the world of samsara, samadhi is the greatest accomplishment experientially in this sense. Ashtanga Yoga has the last word in terms of nirvikalpa samadhi, a state of absorption wherein there is no second thing at all. The knower, known, and the instrument of knowledge, all three of them coalesce into one experience lasting for a length of time. Although it does not take away the samsara, it is definitely the last word in samsara. Nirvikalpa Samadhi, should I read?
Means it has little bit of ajnana.
If you can read the previous para also. Sorry, we're going to go back and forth, but it's better to understand better. Because all this comes under the Yoga Sukha, I guess. It is not Turiya Sukha. Because
it comes
earlier
under
Swamiji
experience. It comes under
Correct.
experience.
Ashtanga Yoga's ultimate goal is Samadhi. Yeah, I will read once again. The difference between recognition and experience. This recognition marks the difference between ordinary yoga, meaning Ashtanga Yoga, and what we are talking about here. You must know this well and not confuse this recognition with the Samadhi of Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is a discipline which has its own place in preparing the mind for the knowledge to take place. For this reason, you should not think of it as useless or anything. Ashtanga Yoga is a great discipline, but if it is not understood as such, there can naturally be confusion between it and the knowledge of oneself, Atmajnana, which is the ultimate and the freedom that everyone seeks. The Samadhi that Ashtanga Yoga talks about is in terms of experience. In fact, if as a samsari, you have to accomplish anything in this world, that is in the world of samsara, samadhi is the greatest accomplishment experientially in this sense. Ashtanga Yoga has the last word in terms of nirvikalpa samadhi, a state of absorption wherein there is no second thing at all. The knower, known, and the instrument of knowledge, all three of them coalesce into one experience lasting for a length of time. Although it does not take away the samsara, it is definitely the last word in samsara.
I think in this that Nirvikalpa Samadhi has a time limit. Experience lasting for a length of time means it can go, but in the Antantika, what is that? Antantika
Turiya Sukha.
Turiya Sukha. There you are always. I think that is therefore there.
So there is no ajnana there.
Here ajnana.
So there is no ajnana there. In Turiya Sukha, there is no ajnana present. I will read the Nirvikalpa Samadhi also. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the opposite of deep sleep. In deep sleep, there is Nirvikalpa, all right, meaning that the knower, known, knowledge division is not there. But in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the mind is awake, unlike in deep sleep, where the mind is sleeping. In both cases, there is ajnana, the difference being that when the mind is asleep, there is no vritti, whereas in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the mind is awake, meaning there is vritti. Therefore, the greatest thing you can have in life is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is why it is the greatest hooker also. It baits people because it is the last thing that you can think of accomplishing in samsara, in your life here in this world.
Because in this Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the mind is awake, therefore there is vritti. And whenever there is vritti, there is ajnana.
And in the Turiya Sukha, the vritti is there, no doubt. You begin with the vritti of Atma, that Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. But that vritti removes the self-knowledge and it also disappears. So there is no vritti ultimately when you attain that Turiya Sukha. So that is the recognition. That is why this whole para is all about difference between recognition and experience. So Nirvikalpa Samadhi is again to end, is one of the ends, the end of what we look for in Ashtanga Yoga. But it only is an experience. You still have that little as long as you are in that state, you have the experience, but it is limited to that state.
Again, you have a vritti.
And Swamiji mentions that it does not take you away from samsara. The samsara continues. So maybe when we read a little further, we will understand. We can go further.
Yes. It is, the clarity is explained so well. Experience always has an end. But Nirvikalpa Samadhi has an end. It is something you come out of. All that is needed is for someone to drop something in front of you or to start a vacuum cleaner in the next house. As soon as you become aware of the sound, you are not only out of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you may be into anger as well. Why? This is because Nirvikalpa Samadhi is something that does not last forever. You will come out of it in time. And once you are out of it, it becomes a past experience that you then talk to others about. Swamiji, yesterday I had the most wonderful thing happen to me. Even the language used to describe the experience is different. But as soon as the thoughts come, or someone begins hammering, or a child begins to cry, or a bug creeps up on your leg, real or imagine, it is gone. You have come out of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So clear, right? There are those who will tell you that once you experience Nirvikalpa Samadhi and you come out of that experience, the world will be different. They also say that you experience the Atma in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. How can this be? All that happened was that the knower, known, knowledge, difference coalesce. All differences disappeared. A desirable experience, no doubt. It is recognized by the intellect. It is buddhi grahya. And is also beyond sense perception, atindriya. But how has this experience changed the state of your vision? In fact, you may become very sad. Before you knew Atma, you were only sad if you lost someone, money, some power, some hair, or a relationship. Now, having known the Atma, you have a new item which can be lost and be a cause for sadness yourself. Previously, you lost certain things but remained yourself. But now you have experienced a much greater loss, the loss of yourself. Wow, the way Swamiji read the paragraph once again, it is
wonderful, really wonderful.
So beautiful. There are those who will tell you that once you experience Nirvikalpa Samadhi and you come out of that experience, the world will be different. They also say that you experience the Atma in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. How can this be? All that happened was that the knower-known knowledge difference coalesced. All differences disappeared. A desirable experience, no doubt. It is recognized by the intellect. It is buddhi grahya. And it is so beyond sense perception, atindriya. But how has this experience changed the state of your vision? In fact, you may become very sad. Before you knew Atma, you were only sad if you lost some money, some power, some hair, or a relationship. Now, having known the Atma, you have a new item which can be lost and be a cause for sadness yourself. Previously, you lost certain things but retained yourself. But now you have experienced a much greater loss, the loss of yourself. Therefore, practitioners of Samadhi may have a certain sadness. Sadness if Samadhi does not come. Sadness even when it comes because it does not last. And even if it lasts for some time, there is sadness because it ends. All that can be said is that I was eternal for half an hour. For that period of time, the division between the knower, known, and knowledge that is usually there went away. Time itself went away. For half an hour, you were free from time, which means you were timeless, eternal. And after half an hour, you become what? Non-eternal. Even if you have samadhi for 2 days, you become non-eternal. In this way, it is no different than being in a coma for 2 days and then coming out of it. Why in the coma, there was no division whatsoever, and the person also did not know what was happening. Therefore, the length of time that one is in Nirvikalpa Samadhi has no meaning.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We all go through this. Many times Guruji says, how long did you meditate? 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But we didn't recognize it,
Yeah, the time period.
And I think when we were discussing the 4 kinds of sukhas, it is not the turiya sukha that we recognize, we experience in meditation. It is the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, I suppose. Those glimpses of
yes,
correct. Correct.
Which is where you have that state of where you merge, where you're in your being, yes, but that is a temporary state. You go there and you come back again. Like Swamiji very rightly said, someone has to just start the vacuum cleaner, or there should be someone opening the door or a bang on a door, some really little distraction.
Yeah, it is so true.
It is not Atin. Therefore, in that sense, maybe during the time that it is Atindriyam, yes, but then again, you're not completely out of your senses. You are. There is an expiry date for this Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Expiry time. So that is why the Atyantika Sukham, the absolute Sukha, is that state you will never come out of. Such a wonderful state to even imagine that you're in that state where there is no return. Anyway, I think we'll read further.
Yeah, and I think the biggest revelation is that you are that already. That is also very, I mean, the fact is you are that. It is your Swarupa only. It is not an accomplishment which can be gained by some.
Yeah. And that those sentences where Swamiji says, earlier you lost your money, power, and therefore you were sad. But now you're losing yourself. So you're even sad for this. That is why in Sahaj, Gurudev also says, you do not hook yourself onto your experience. Doesn't matter whatever experiences you've had. Otherwise that creates a longing, a feverishness. Oh, I had a beautiful experience in Sahaj. I want to have that same experience. That itself becomes a longing. That itself becomes, a limitation. So whatever the experience, be non-judgmental. Just do those. The Sahaj is meant, like all these practices are meant to discipline the mind, to create that antakarna shuddhi and the antakarna naischalya.
It is
So
same
that is
with
what they're meant for.
It is same with advanced course also. After the advanced course, we feel bad coming to the home.
Yeah, you want to stay in that state. That is only a part of disciplining. That is why Swamiji is very careful to use his words. He says it is not to belittle Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga has its place. Nirvikalpa Samadhi has its place. But that is not the end. I think someone had asked earlier, is Samadhi the end? So Samadhi is actually not the end. It's beyond that we... Moksha is beyond just the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Right.
Very true. Yeah, it is clarified now. So beautifully explained. Discipline implies a certain mastery of the mind. As a discipline, however, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is great because when you gather such an experience, it indicates that you have a certain mastery. Otherwise, you would not have been able to have the experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Because a certain mastery is involved, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is considered to be the height of experience that one can gain. It is like a prize, the end for those who want to gain experience. To say that it indicates a certain sattvika vritti on one's part is fine. But to say that after you come out of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you will see the world entirely differently. It is not correct because how you see the world depends purely on your vision of reality. Having experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you have to interpret that experience. And to interpret that the experience, you must have a pramana, a means of knowledge. Again, then we come back to pramana because you do not interpret an experience in any other way than by what you know. All interpretations depend entirely upon your knowledge, which is dependent on the pramana available to you. And all the pramanas that one has, perception, inference, etc., operate by maintaining a duality of karta, the doer, karma, the object of doing, kriya, the act of doing itself, karana, the instrument of doing, etc. All these are collectively called as karakas. Retaining the duality alone, one's pramanas, the various means of knowledge operate. I think I'll read that paragraph again. Again, then we come back to pramana. Because you do not interpret an experience in any other way than by what you know. All interpretations depend entirely upon your knowledge, which is dependent on the pramana available to you. And all the pramanas that one has, perception, inference, etc., operate by maintaining a duality of karta, the doer, karma, the object of doing, kriya, the act of doing itself, karana, the instrument of doing, etc. All these are collectively called as karakas. Retaining the duality alone, one's pramanas, the various means of knowledge, operate. Perception, pratyaksha, and inference, anumana, do not swallow the karakas. Only the agama, the teaching, swallows them. It says that you are not the knower, pramata. You are the very essence of the knower, the knowledge, and the object of knowledge. All three of them being one and the same. In this way, the agama resolves the division, which is exactly what this verse is saying. Knowing Atma, not moving from the truth of Atma, there is no knower, known, knowledge, division for the person. Nor is there any question about when you are going to get out of yourself, because both thought and the object of thought are you, Atma. That is so beautiful. You want me to read once again? Please
Yeah, I
let me
think
know.
this one para we'll read one more time. The karaka is important because, see, the perception depends on the karaka. Like, for instance, all of us are there in this Manana meeting. How we understand, how we interpret what is being read is individualistic. It's not absolute, isn't it? All of us may have a different degree of understanding. So that is why the same thing when you extrapolate to the world outside, it is different. My world is different from the way you see the world. All of us have a little inner universe, inner world, based on our perception, based on our past experience and all that. But then the knowledge that comes, the pramana, the agama pramana. Agama is our Vedas and Shastras. So that pramana that we get points to the absolute, which is universal. Whether it is for Ramana Maharshi or Adi Shankaracharya or Gurudev, it is the same. And for all of us. So that is why Agama Pramana is important. That is the only thing that will liberate us. Which is why this knowledge is important. Which is why Gurudev keeps harping on saying you have to read the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
So you can read this paragraph one more time, Bella.
Yeah. Perception, pratyaksha, and inference, anumana, do not swallow the karakas. Only the agama, the teaching, swallows them. Please remember this sentence. Perception, pratyaksha, and inference, anumana, do not swallow the karakas. Only the agama, the teaching, swallows them. It says that you are not the knower, pramata, you are the very essence of the knower, the knowledge, and the object of knowledge. I will read this line once again. It says that you are not the knower, pramata, you are the very essence of the knower, the knowledge, and the object of knowledge, all three of them being one and the same. In this way, the agama resolves the division, which is exactly what this verse is saying. Knowing Atma, not moving from the truth of Atma, there is no knower, known, knowledge, division for the person. Nor is there any question about when you are going to get out of yourself, because both thought and the object of thought are you, Atma. So beautiful. Thought is you. There is no way of getting out of yourself, because with thought you are, and without thought you are. Whether you are with the world or without the world, it is you all the time. This we shall see clearly later because the statement tatvatah na chalati in the verse under study implies jnana, knowledge. The word yoga is not to be taken in its usual sense. It is more viyoga than yoga, as Krishna explains a little later. Previously, due to ignorance, there was an association, samyoga, with dukkha, sorrow, taking it to be oneself, which was the problem. Yoga means joining, association, and viyoga means dissociation from the association. Previously, the person was in association with the body, mind, and senses, which was not a simple association because the person actually took the body, mind, sense complex to be himself or herself. Then the person dissociated himself or herself from sorrow by knowledge, which does not imply Ashtanga Yoga. So beautiful. I'll read it once again, the whole paragraph. Thought is you. There is no way of getting out of yourself because with thought, you are, and without thought, you are. Whether you are with the world or without the world, it is you all the time. This we shall see clearly later. Because the statement tatvatah na chalati in the verse under study implies jnana, knowledge. The word yoga is not to be taken in its usual sense. It is more viyoga than yoga, as Krishna explains a little later. Previously, due to ignorance, there was an association, sanyoga, with dukkha, sorrow, taking it to be oneself, which was the problem. Yoga means joining, association, and viyoga means dissociation from the association. Previously, the person was in association with the body, mind, and senses, which was not a simple association because the person actually took the body, mind, sense complex to be himself or herself. Then the person dissociated himself or herself from that sorrow by knowledge, which does not imply Ashtanga Yoga. So it is so simple, so beautiful.
So it is Viyoga.
Yes.
And not yoga, actually.
That is what, we are now Sanyoga with Atma. Even that has to go. Nissangoham.
I will just read this shloka once again. Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyam matindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sthitah chalati tatvatah. And when one recognizes this absolute happiness, which is recognized by the intellect, which is beyond sense perception, and when being rooted therein, one never moves away from the truth of oneself. So with that, we will just do some closed eye manana with our own self, and then we will share our takeaways for today's beautiful session. Jai Gurudev. Kindly share your takeaways for today. My takeaway is you are that already. You are complete. You are joy. You are love. Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. You are that.
That is what here is. Excuse me.
Yeah. The shloka you want me to keep? Hello?
The vritti thought by which one recognizes an object and the object of vritti are identical. That is, in order to recognize the object, the vritti must necessarily have the object in itself. If I had to recognize a pot, ghata, the vritti must assume the very form of the pot. Therefore, the vritti is called ghata vritti. By the ghata vritti alone, you can go a little further. Move up little, please. Belaji. Alone, one recognizes the object ghata pot. Means we recognize in Nirvikalpa, we recognize it, but the vritti is still there. Very good. For the recognition of Atma also, there must be a vritti.
Also, the difference between the 4 different kinds of sukhas, the understanding of nirvikalpa samadhi and how that is limited by time, and what is difference between recognizing that you are Atma to experiencing those moments of nirvikalpa samadhi, and the difference between deep sleep and nirvikalpa samadhi. All these were very clearly defined in what we learned today.
Really an important step. We should have understood it.
Yeah, deep sleep and nirvikalpa samadhi, the difference is that here you are awake, whereas there you are asleep.
Yeah.
You're covered by that. You're in that karana sharira at that point. Whereas difference between nirvikalpa samadhi and the turiya sukha or the atyantika sukha is that there is still that, it is only an experience. It is not, you still have that little dvaita is still there, that vritti is still there.
That vritti there is. Ghata vritti. Very good. Yeah, they are written very nicely. I understood that paragraph after reading the other. Now the ghata vritti alone, one recognizes the object ghata, pot. Means for the recognition of Atma also, there must be a vritti. So wonderfully, really very good. See, after reading, again we have to go back, again read it, then only we understand it. So wonderful. Beauty.
Everyone kindly share. It is so beautiful today. It is very, very beautiful. If you want me to read something again, please let me know. But please share your takeaways. Everybody, please. Because as we read in the Swamiji's explanation, right, everyone have a different perception. So the way someone thinks, the other person may not have thought of. So kindly share your takeaways the way you have understood.
So even Ashtanga Yoga is only towards preparing the mind for moksha. The eight divisions in the Ashtanga Yoga: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Even that Samadhi is...
The end product is Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
It only stops there. Yeah, it stops there. But
there. And it ends. See, it has a birth means we know it, and it has a time limit. It ends. Again, that still it is a ajnana. We are still not completely absorbed. Means samadhi itself is not an end to the realization.
I would request Percy ji, he shared a very beautiful video of the quantum physics. How what is observed is dependent on the observer. I think that we can share in the group. It is a different kind of opening up to a different reality, as in what it just brings down the fact, it just reconfirms the fact that each of us has how we look at the world is very, very individualistic. It is all dependent on the observer. So for a person who is enlightened, he looks at everything as Advaita. I mean, there is only Advaita for him or her.
And there, buddhi plays more important than the senses. That is what also is important in this verse.
Yeah.
Buddhi is the main, not the senses.
So what we have to do, all our practice, sadhana, even this knowledge, all of this is to purify that observer so that we get the true vision of what is. In fact, there was this Nobel Peace Prize that was given to I'll just join back. I'm getting a call. I will. 1 second.
There was this 3 scientists who won the Nobel Prize. They were looking into matter for years together, and then they said, matter is not matter, it is energy vibrating at different frequencies. And they got the Nobel Peace Prize for that. A video that I shared yesterday was the difference between what we call quantum physics. And we, in our college days, what is superimposed in our brain is about chemistry. We talk about atoms and molecules. And then suppose we say hydrogen sulfate, H2SO4. So two molecules of hydrogen with 4 molecules of sulfate make 2 atoms of hydrogen with 4 atoms of sulfate makes a molecule hydrogen sulfate, H2SO4. So that was also correct. And Gurudev says that is also necessary, this is also necessary. So ultimately, what we thought them to be different. And then when we go deeper and deeper into the study, if we see charcoal and diamond is the same thing. It's just the vibrating frequencies which makes the difference between charcoal and diamond. Otherwise, both have the same composition. So from that, it's a completely different point of view of looking at things now in quantum physics, where they are ultimately coming, what we said that Prakriti, Maya hai, like, and how Tattva and Gunas combine together to make the each and every thing that is there in this universe, from trees, plants, mountains, the whole galaxy, sun, moon, but everything is Maya like sort of, and how it is Maya from macrocosm to microcosm. And then it's like the connecting medium is the Pran Shakti. And how through the Pran Shakti, we realize that we, the pin, is a part of Brahman only, the universal cosmic energy. The life force energy within us and the cosmic energy. And all the bandhas and mudras we do is to retain that energy, which is healing energy, which is coming into our body. We want to keep it there for a longer period of time. So we apply the locks, as they are called, the buns. So we are keeping that wonderful energy within our system. And that helps in healing us physically at the internal organs level and mentally at the levels of the chakras, the Kundalini Shakti, as we call it, the serpent which is coiled. And the Prana Shakti rises from the base chakra, the Muladhara, and goes right up till once it crosses the heart chakra, then the movement is upwards. Once it pierces the Agya chakra, then there is total bliss. When you come to the Sahasrara chakra, so it's all the play of energy. Yesterday, that video was a wonderful video that I got through and I sent it to Dr. Brahmra. It's a little tough for everybody to follow. Sorry. I'll put it in the group. If you all are interested, you can go through that. There was some scientific study done on quantum physics, and it's a wonderful.
Thank you. So wonderful.
Jai Gita.
Katra kar.
And the fact that how the observer, the perceiver varies and the perception varies based on the perceiver is if we just look up to the sky, we have a group of say 4-5 people and ask them to imagine what is the cloud formations are. Each one will have a separate, totally different interpretation of the cloud formation. For some, it might look like maybe a teddy bear. For some, it might look like, you never know. Whatever, each individually, there will be different interpretations. So, but how the agama gives you, because that is the truth, no? I think that is the only reason why of the pramanas in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, you have Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Agama, isn't it? These three pramanas, three kinds of pramanas. So the pratyaksha and anumana are different, are subjective, based on based on individuals, whereas the agama pramana is what is gives us the absolute, the truth. That is why the agama pramana is important. That is that vritti, that atma jnana vritti is what is going to lead us to the truth, which is what we use in nididhyasana. I don't know about the others, but we're doing Shravana, we're doing Manana as well. But this Nididhyasana, honestly, I've not yet kind of incorporated. Because when you're doing Sahaj, you're doing Sahaj. But I think Nididhyasana requires you to stay in, with your eyes closed and just recollect all of this. Do that inner churning inside and bring this knowledge. That is what is required. I think Nididhyasana, I'm not sure if any of you is already doing. It'll be nice. Maybe you can share
not
that.
Bring that knowledge, no. Live that knowledge. You told bring that knowledge. No, it's not bringing. It is to live that knowledge.
Mm.
I think when Nanaji was taking the Gita, that time, I think for entire days, like at the back of the mind, you may be doing something else also, but his words were churning and churning and churning, and there was so much of repetition of what he was saying. I don't know, like it's not plain enumerated by his words, but like there was so much of depth, and we were contemplating on it so much more. Like I don't know, there was some magic in his words, like the profound knowledge that he was sharing. Like it went like even the way he chanted, na, that used to simply go on. I don't know Sanskrit, but in the back of my mind, that would go on, like, and it has such a purifying effect on us.
Yeah, that happens. That happens, really. That is that you are living the knowledge, no? Then the knowledge automatically comes and that pierces you. Same thing with Guruji's words.
And every time, like whenever I'm reading up some article or I'm watching some video like this, which I sent to you yesterday, it just takes me back to his knowledge on Tattva Bodha and how he talked about from one Brahman, he, he set a whole thing in motion through the 5 tattvas and the 3 gunas, and how from macrocosm we came to microcosm.
Panchekarana.
Yeah. From macrocosm, we came to microcosm. And then all the scientific studies that I, throughout the day, something or the other, I read up some extra knowledge or whatever. And there I just come across this, that it is just, we are part of the universal cosmic energy is all that is there. We are part of it. So like Atma and Paramatma are the same. Whatever way it is being said, ultimately it is energy. And just like a magnet and iron fillings that are pulled by the magnetic force, the same way through our Pran Shakti, they are like the electromagnetic waves which pull the iron filings towards the magnet. So, I mean, I just find it uh, easier to accept that I'm Atma and I'm part of Paramatma sort of now with this kind of knowledge base.
Nididhyasa.
Yeah.
Very
the
beautiful.
more I read up, the more the conclusions are near about the same. Like every day I like to read something, venture out into the same topic, but like something different from somewhere else or something,
No, when we do daily sadhana, no, you get all these small doubts, all these, whatever we are reading, no? All this.
Yesterday I was reading an article on Om, and it said that that scientific research that is being done in the Western world is on Om. If you say Om and if you count now when Guruji is doing the Sudarshan Kriya, like that when he's saying it, It is 15 seconds long. And when you are repeating it, this 15-second long Om, mentally, it seems that your hippocampus and various other areas in your brain, he mentioned 3 in particular, and they did scientific research. They took CT scans and all that. And they found that these areas were going inert. They marked them with a yellow color, the CT scan, showing that they were going inert, that you are getting depressed. And then how that helps you to get focused, to go into that state of bliss. Only that Om chanting itself is, I mean, it is, I mean, it's so reassuring and at the same time shocking. Like Guruji, how much he has given us, pranayam, bhastrika, and how useful these tools are, and especially the Sudarshan Kriya. But even a small little thing like Om has such a vast impact on the brain. And they're doing scientific research over there on this as to how it is working, this chanting. And Guruji simply goes around entire Maharashtra saying, plant the seeds into the sky and what you will get is bliss. And here they are scientifically proving the same thing, which Guruji is already telling us to do. And he's telling us so casually.
No, he is casually, no, each word is Veda from his mouth. Each word is Veda.
Yeah.
That I always take like that only. Then
So
only,
much of reinforcing happening with the knowledge. Like you just go on reading from the I do it from the scientific because I have to take with doctors and where all I have to go and talk with educated and corporate people. So I keep on reading and try to get the justification or the scientific basis for whatever I have to say.
when Guruji says it appears to be so casually, but it is really so profound, so profound.
Yeah, very nice. So shall we conclude here today? We'll continue tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.